I'm Matt Gishard, and this is No Holds Barred. Today we're going to have a chat about cannabis, otherwise known as marijuana. Let me talk about legalities. So one of the issues that people always ask is, okay, let's assume we're past the licensing stage, past everything. There is a business that somebody can legally of age go in and buy whatever product they're going to buy. Where can they smoke it? So in the city that I live in, you can't even smoke cigarettes in the downtown area. So certainly you can't go in that back alley, as you said, and smoke. How about in vehicles? Is it against the law under the proposition to actually smoke in your vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
same as alcohol, same kind of an issue. Because I think
Yes.
oftentimes you're driving
Exactly.
along and smell, it's either a skunk or somebody smoking marijuana, and look over and the guy next to you in the car is smoking smoking marijuana in the car right next to you. So that is absolutely illegal. Is that correct?
That is still illegal, much like it's illegal to have an open beverage while you're driving. Enforcement is a different question, but legality it's very clear on that.
Yeah.
And same thing with public spaces where you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes, you're not allowed to smoke cannabis. And in some places, you're not even allowed to smoke cannabis if you are allowed to smoke cigarettes. It depends on the jurisdiction's rules of the city or the county that you're in. It's certainly one of those things where, I mean, the state means well. They wanted to put a lot of tax dollars to the studies of what exactly constitutes the legal limit for driving while under the influence of cannabis. A lot of the tax dollars is going to those studies. I don't think that there's been any real outcome from that yet, but that's part of what Prop 64 directly delineated and called for. So it is something that regulators are aware of and are trying to address. But yes, you hit the nail on the head, is that I think it's more of a nuisance to not have places to consume in public than not, because the odor can be offensive to some. And if it was in places where businesses are either putting in odor control technology or it's in a place where it's expected to be, then that is a way of getting around that while also creating the opportunities for the cities and the businesses that I mentioned earlier. It really does. It's something that should be embraced, in my opinion, as opposed to banned, because people have always done it anyway. I at least since the 60s. I mean, we always smell it when we're walking about. People are still going out and doing it wherever they're going before they go into a movie or a concert or a comedy show or any type of event that they decide it's something they want it for. So again, Disneyland, why are we putting our heads in the sand and not knowing what's happening where and unsafe or what? Why aren't we doing this in a safe way where people can support their community and gather like they would otherwise and make money all around? I don't get it.
Well, I think a lot of people.
This idea of a drug den to me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
I think a lot of people, if they heard you talking, what you're saying here, would say, that's a good idea. I never thought about that. Because certainly those weren't things that I thought about.
It's interesting to me. I just put together an event for the LA County Bar Association and the California Cannabis Industry Association, which is the largest trade group of businesses in California. And LACBA is one of the largest county bar associations in our state. And what we did was, it was the first ever of its kind networking event where we had state regulators, the entire Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulations executive team was there. The LA County regulators and attorneys were there. We had a lot of attorneys. We had a lot of stakeholders. State Senator Stephen Bradford came as well. He's been championing a lot of social equity causes. And we had a sold out, packed house at the studio, which is the Artist Trees Consumption Lounge in West Hollywood. And it was the first of its kind where we were openly providing an open bar of cannabis instead of an open bar of alcohol for the networking event. So instead of going to the bar and getting a drink, you could get you can get an infused mocktail with cannabis in it. You could try your hand at a student glass gravity bong, or you could just smoke a pre-roll. The choice was yours, and you could do it anywhere in the facility. What I kept hearing, which was just so fascinating to me, was first off, everybody walking in going, so wait, I have this joint. What do I do with it? I'm like, well, what do you do if you're at a bar? Well, I drink it. I'm like, so spark it up, go for it. And they were just blown away by that. They couldn't believe that wherever they were walking in the facility, they were able to just consume. But in addition to that, what the regulators saw and what they kept saying to me was, you need to do this more. This lounge was beautiful. It had a view of this downtown skyline. It was very nicely appointed. It felt like you were in an outdoor library of sorts on the second floor. And then we had a really beautiful buffet set up upstairs. And what everybody noticed was, one, nobody was disrespectful. Two, everybody had a great time. And three, there was nothing that felt remotely unsafe or disgusting about being there. In fact, it felt way cleaner and more exciting to be in than most dingy bars you go into that have that smell that only comes with a bar, that combo of spilled alcohol and everything else that comes with that. Because with the odor control technology, it's a lot more airy, and so it's actually a more pleasant environment. And people were blown away by that, and that's what you have to see and most dispensaries as well. Not only do they have to do so much to meet the security regulations before they can sell to you, but they're trying to make it welcoming to you because they want your soccer moms or your baby boomers or whomever that don't necessarily know what it's like to go, and they're afraid to go in a store, to go in and say like, oh, this is like going into any coffee shop or any local neighborhood business. I want to be in here. And you don't get that sense of, my God, I feel like I'm in this really disgusting drug den. I have yet to see one that even remotely feels like that, and I've been to quite a few. And there's innovation happening all the time with like immersive entertainment and image mapping and all these other things that you can do to make it even more exciting to be in the store, or you have some other element that makes it fun to stay. So that's what's happening actually with all these lounges and retail shops across the country. And the ones that are illicit are the ones you're walking into because there's no regulations, that are feeling dirty and dingy, not the ones that are regulated.
Gotcha. No, interesting. That's an interesting concept. I want to jump a little bit into something that really bothers a lot of people, and that is access, teenagers and kids. And that's not just what we hear, is not so much that they're going into lounges and smoking or but accessing perhaps accidentally edibles. And we're hearing quite a lot about that. And that may not be anything that, kids have access to their mom's highball on the coffee table on a Friday night or whatever, those kinds of things. But what actually is being done or conceptually to ensure that, because this is what people ask all the time,
Sure.
How do we keep it out of the hands of kids?
Well, I hate to admit this and it's embarrassing, but it's fun for the listeners. I was one of those horrible teenagers that would fill my parents' liquor to the lines with water after we snuck some. So, and knowing that now,
You did that too?
I'm so sorry, Mom. I did it, yeah. And I thought that was so clever of me, and God, I hope my child doesn't do that. But anyway, getting back on track, it was interesting. They did a study in Southern California about a year ago where they were doing an undercover operation to look and see if stores were actually checking IDs and everything. And it was really interesting to see that there really was almost no diversion or allowance or sales to minors or those that didn't properly check in. The stores are so concerned about losing their license that no one kid is worth it. It's a lot like the penalties for selling cigarettes to minors. It's just not worth it. And what really happens in the regulated shops is you have to put your ID in when you check in every single time. If you're a medical patient, you've got to give your recommendation showing that you are a recommended medical patient, that this has got a medicinal use for you to be able to get there. And while you're in the store, there's security sitting there the whole time watching you as you come in and come out. So at the stores, it's not happening really from what I can gather. I don't know about illicit shops, but for legal and regulated shops, there's actually been studies shown, and some articles came out very recently in the last year or two, that it's not happening at the store itself. It's not happening from the regulated market. It's happening elsewhere. It's like you said, getting into mom's highball on the table, or me being the jerk that's refilling my parents' liquor with water, or it's they know where this mom and dad's stash is because they're not locking it up, like they're not locking up their guns or everything else that is dangerous in the home, and that's more how it's happening. Or people are getting it from stores that aren't checking IDs and aren't caring about that kind of stuff because they're unregulated and they're more willing to sell if you look old enough. And so that's more from my experience, what I'm seeing it's happening. Again, this goes back to, I'll never forget talking with some police chiefs in some of the cities near LA, where they were actually saying they've seen crime not being increased, and in many cases going down, when regulations have been and it is easily available. What regulators and counties need to be aware of is they're so concerned that this illicit product, and they're so concerned of getting theirs that they're over-regulating it, and they're making it so hard to get a license, and they're making it so difficult to get up and running, that they're having the alternative effect of discouraging discouraging entrepreneurs from wanting to do it, because it's so expensive and so time and difficult and stressful to get in. Versus if you would embrace it and allow it more and create a pathway for it, and you get these businesses having a stake, well, wait, I'm legal, I want to stay legal, and it was easy to get legal, they're more likely to want to comply because they're already in, they have something to lose. And so that is a way, in my opinion, it's sort of contrary to what may be sounding the way, but is don't over-regulate, embrace, and work it in. Start with just getting in the door, getting up and running, and then learn your pain points as you go so that it can be adjusted when your community is going to have a real vested interest in making it work at that point. It's a more nuanced and measured approach, obviously, instead of this fear of like, oh, no, we have to meet this drug den concerns. We can't have driving under the influence. We have public safety problems. Why is this different from alcohol? In fact, it's been shown that most cannabis users are less of a public detriment than those that have been over drinking, than over consuming cannabis. I mean, come on. Most people, if they get high, they tend to be quieter and more withdrawn, as opposed to the more boisterous and dangerous behaviors that alcohol consumption does.
If not hungrier. So I'm going to leave this at this point. I really appreciate Bryan Bergman speaking with us here today. I'm sure you're going to continue to advocate for some of those issues we talked about, correcting things. And I want to thank you very much for coming. I think eye-opening about how this cannabis industry and the market and the science. So happy to have you here on No Holds Barred, and I hope to have you back in the future and we can continue this discussion. So thank you very much.
I would love it, Matt. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. Thank you for watching this episode on cannabis. If you have any comments, please leave them below. And we look forward to seeing you on future episodes of No Holds Barred. Be sure to like and subscribe, because it helps us with our YouTube algorithm.